All right, we're going to try and start this over again. Hopefully, people will be able to hear me. If you can hear me, just let me know in the comments section. Sorry about that. For some reason, the microphone was shut off. I don't know why. But, like they say, second time's the charm. And as usual, this is We Love Comics. My name is Chris. It is the 1st of February, 2018. Believe it or not, it's already February. And thank you, Comic Lover Omega, for letting me know you can hear me. Sorry about the audio problem. It is 9:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And one of the things I want to say before I start is the people that come to my live chats, they start some great conversations with one another. Everybody here is friendly. I've seen people subscribe to other people's channels. So if you want, especially if you make videos, if you want your voice heard and your comic channel known, come on into the live chat, have some nice, pleasant conversations with the people in the live chat, and we'll get some discussions going, because I wanted to talk about, like you see in the title of this video, I'm going to compare the CGC versus the PGX pressing services. Now, one of my subscribers, TJ, and thank you for this, told me that CGC does have on their website the listing for their pressing services. I must have missed it, but I appreciate you letting me know, so thank you for that. I double-checked with CBCS, and even though I've been told they do pressing services, it's not mentioned at all on their website, which makes it definitely very hard for people to be able to utilize the service, because if they don't know how, or they don't even know it exists, that can make a problem. So I want to show you with the screens so you could see this. And obviously, as you could see, when I'm not showing any other page, your comments will show up on the video. So if you want your voice, and your channel seen so other people can visit your channel, come on in and start cutting a dialogue. So the first thing I want to do is go to the CGC website. Now, I put links for both in the description so you could check them out. So this is the CGC services. Now, remember, for CGC, you have to have a membership, and it's a paid membership. If you don't use that, you have to have a comic book store that is authorized by CGC to be able to utilize their services without the fees. Now, not every comic shop is going to have that, so that can be a problem, especially if you don't want to spend the extra money. So right off the bat, the differences between the two is that CGC charges a service, the PGX does not. And again, I am not being paid by any services, but because I don't have any brand loyalty, I can be able to speak honestly the pluses and cons of each company so you could make a better decision of what is going to benefit you the most, because there's a lot of different things that are involved other than just what's popular, because it doesn't matter if it's popular for everybody else. If it doesn't service your needs or it's beyond your affordability, then it's not going to help you. So like I said, let's get to the first part. Now, CGC works with a grading company that's called CCS Services. So it's not technically CGC, but they are affiliated with them. Now, the first thing you see on the top here is a $5 handling fee for all online submissions and an $8 handling fee per invoice. So without even finding out what the prices are, they're already charging you either $5 or $8 just for the privilege of submitting your comics. So there's a fee right there. Now, they have something here called a quick press, which means they're not really getting into the full details. Now, they don't say anything about dry cleaning. So this, as far as I'm concerned, unless I'm mistaken, only involves a pressing. Now, if it does include a dry cleaning, they don't say it, so that's not really helping people to know what they're paying for. So I'm going to assume, based on what they're saying, that it is just a pressing. The quick press, as you could see here, it is a 15-book minimum. So you have to have a minimum of 15 books to qualify for this quick press. And, as you can see here, a maximum value of $200, which means if you have Hulk 181, this is not going to qualify. So this is pretty much going to be geared towards, newer books that don't have a lot of value. The current turnaround is 23 business days. Now remember, business days do not include Saturdays and Sundays and do not include holidays. So this is not including what you would be sending your books in for the grading. This would be the turnaround time just to get a quick press. So that means you're talking about a month and a half to maybe 2 months from sending it to having them receive it, to have them process it, to have them press it, and then to have them send it over to CGC to continue your grading. Now, this is the cheapest value for them. They charge for modern books, which is from 1975 through the present, of $8, and a value, which is preset 1975, to $15. But again, they have to be a maximum value of 200, and you need 15 books to qualify for that. So not exactly the most flexible or easy way to go. So you'd have to go to the next section, which is the comic pressings. So that's the full pressing. But again, they do not mention dry cleaning. So as far as I'm concerned, or what anybody else would assume based on what they're showing, this does not include dry cleaning. And if it does, that's a poor job on their behalf to let people know about it. So again, I'm going to assume, because they don't mention dry cleaning, that they're only doing a pressing. So again, if you go by the cheaper ones, now there is no minimum or maximum here. The modern, which is 1975 to present, $12. Fast track is $18 per comic, plus the invoice fee. But look at the turnaround. 56 business days. That is about 3 months. And you know a lot of times there's going to be holidays. So you're talking about 3 months to get those back, and 20 days if you pay the extra $6 per comic. And again, 20 business days is roughly around a month and a half. So that, again, is only for comics that are valued at $200 maximum. So if you have a Fantastic 452, or if you have a Avengers #1, you're not going to even be able to qualify for these. So then you'd have to get to another level. This is economy. Again, 56 business days for the regular, 20 business days for the fast track. Now you're talking $40 per book or $55 a book for fast track. And here, that's only $400 value maximum, which means, again, your Hulk 181s, your Avengers 1, 2, 3, 4, your basically expensive books are not even going to qualify for this. So now you have to go to the next round. Now you're talking standard, which is a 15 business day, so roughly around 3 weeks to a month. Now you're talking $60 a comic. Again, if you have a high-grade Hulk 181 or any kind of #1 Silver Age comic, it's not going to qualify because it's a $1,000 maximum value. And if you have, for example, X-Men #1, that's probably mid-grade or even like a 3.0, that's valued at more than $1,000, so it wouldn't qualify. So now you'd have to go to the Express, which is 11 business days, only a 4-day difference. A $3,000 price. Now you're talking $85 per book. So you could see it gets very complicated. And with these lower prices, I mean, unless it's a brand new book, there's not going to be a lot of different varieties you can use, because a lot of people get their key issues slabbed because they want to protect them. So now you're talking the minimum. So if you have 10 books and they are valued at $1,000 or less, that's $600 just to get them pressed. That is very expensive. So now if you go on, they have restoration removal. They have a comic screening. They can do restoration, which is something I wouldn't do. But nowhere here does it say anything about dry cleaning. So that's the average prices for the CGC. Now I want you to show you, and again, I don't work for PGX. I don't get paid by PGX. I just want you to see the difference. Here's the PGX. They have 2 choices. Modern comic pressing and cleaning, 1978 to current, $13. Standard pressing and cleaning, $25. Now, standard is from 1978 down. So if you have a Hulk 181, if you have an Avengers #1 at a 9.8, if you have a Batman #1 or Detective Comics 27, well, that wouldn't qualify, because here it says books with a fair market value of $5,000 or more will be charged an additional fee for pressing services to be determined. So it would cost a little bit more if you have an extremely high valuable comic. But you can see here, that's if it's $5,000 or more. Now, when we go back to CGC, you're talking $3,000, and look how much you're being charged, $85. If you go above $3,000, now you're talking 2.5% of the fair market value. That's what FMV means, and $150 minimum. So minimum price for a comic over $3,000 is minimum of $150. But if you look here, and there's no other additional fees, and it doesn't have a 20, 30, 40-day waiting list for these. So I sent in my 4 books, and I'm getting them pressed and cleaned. They said it will take a little bit extra, but you're not talking 2-3 months. And you're talking a better range for prices, and it doesn't make it complicated. So if you have a book from 1978 that is worth $4,000, well, you're only paying $13 to not only get it pressed, because they have a pressing, as you can see here, pressing and cleaning. So that involves 2 different stages. While, as you saw on the CGC website, it only said pressings. Now, again, they could do cleanings. I don't know, because it doesn't say. So if they do it, that's a poor job on their behalf for not listing it. But here, it is perfectly fine. And there are no additional charges. So there is not an extra $5 invoice or $8 invoice fee to be able to have these privileges. So, again, when people say things like, oh, you could sell a CGC for more, you have to also factor in all the different costs, because it's a lot more expensive. So there's a lot more out-of-pocket expenses that are going to increase how much your comic you had to spend on it. So it does reduce from the amount of profit that you make. So I would love to hear what people think about these things. Now, again, I'm not trying to say one is better than the other. I mean, I've never used CGC's pressing service, and with that kind of cost and that type of long turnaround, I fail to see the benefit. Because you're talking 56 days if you want the cheapest way, and that's 56 business days. Then, after that, you have to send it. They have to send it back to CGC to get them graded, which is another 2 to 3 months. You're talking about an average of 6 months. That is ridiculous. Now, of course, if you don't care how long it takes, that's fine. But, the longer your comics are in somebody else's hands, the more chances of something, knock on wood, ever happening to them. So I want to get my comics back as soon as possible. So I'm not going to make this video very long. Of course, I'm going to do shout-outs to everybody that's talking in the live chat, and I'm going to see if there are any questions or anything. But this is why I say brand loyalty kind of blinds people from being able to see what benefits you can get from different companies. Because like they say, variety is the spice of life. And so far, I've used all 3 companies. I've used CGC, haven't had a problem with them. I've used PGX, haven't had a problem with them. I've used CBCS, haven't had a problem with them. So you can base things on what other people hear, or what other people say, or whatever people think. Or you can take a chance on these, because trust me when I say, there are videos out there all over the comic book community that have good and bad things to say about all 3 companies, to the point where they can say the best things about all 3 companies, and some people will say they'll never use a certain company again. So you have to formulate your own opinions, but it also depends on why you're slabbing your comics. Because there's a lot of factors involved. The return, because especially on newer books, If it's a hot book, you want it back right away. Now, if you had to get that book pressed and you had to wait for them to press it and then end up grading it, by the time you got it back, if you're paying the lower prices, you might not be able to sell it for what you could have if you got it 3 months earlier. So these are factors when it comes into making a business decision if you are doing it for that. Now, like so many people like to say about the comic book community when they talk about just the love of comics, then it really shouldn't matter who you grade it with, because if you're doing it for the love of comics, then the value of selling them would not factor in at all. You'd be just grading them to preserve them, or just to get your own satisfaction of knowing what grade that comic was. So, again, make your own choices. Go with what works best with you. Because like I said in my other video, there's strengths and weaknesses to all three companies. So even though there are some people that will, I've had 6 people thumb down my PGX video, and not one person that thumbed it down ended up taking the time to comment it to explain why they didn't like it. Some people are just going to hate just to hate, and that makes no sense, because you're missing out on things that might work for you on that particular moment. It doesn't mean you have to be, kissing the rear end of a company, because in the end, they don't care about you. They care about the money that you provide for them. So why not make sure that companies that are doing things for you give you the best quality and best service? Because there's going to be bad experiences with any company out there. There isn't a company on the planet that doesn't have somebody that has experienced a very negative experience with them and would refuse to ever work with that company again. So there's going to be pluses and minuses with anyone. So think for yourself. Base things on what you feel is best for you. See things from the bigger picture, because it's not just black and white saying, well, CGC is better because you could sell them for more. Well, you're going to wait longer. You're going to pay more for the comics. These things are factors, and that's going to affect your bottom line, because if you have to spend twice as much to get it graded and to get it pressed, that takes away from the profit you sell it for at the end. So you can't say, for example, you sold a book for $1,000 and not include how much money you had to spend to get it to that point to be able to sell it for that price. This is part of the business that I experience because I own my own businesses. You have to factor in, in my jobs, the gas it takes to get to the location, the electric bill, the phone bill, the rent that I have to pay. These are all factors. It's not the bottom line of saying, oh, I sold a comic for $1,000, so I made $1,000. No, you didn't. So there's a lot of other factors. So please keep that in mind. So let's go over this first. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's participated. And anytime you participate, I'm going to make sure I do a shout out to everybody. So Monk's Den, welcome. Caleb Leland, always good to see you. R.W. Wheatley. And if I say I'm wrong, please forgive me. Comic Lover Omega. Did I just say his? No. Okay. Let's see. Kristen Tzakanow. And forgive me if I get them wrong. Maverick Freelance. Kasrock. Or Kasrach. BXNYC. Hey, fellow New Yorker. YouTube subscriber. I love that name. That was pretty cool. And Gene Paul Ace Peter. So welcome. Let's see if there's any questions before I go. Maverick Freelance says, hello, comic lovers. If you're here, give the stream a thumbs up. Well, I always appreciate that. Let's see. Monk's Den said, I got 3 books back from CGC yesterday and sent them for pressing and grading. I used value for pressing. I sent them in October, on October 8th. So see, there you go. It took a couple of months to get them back. And if it was a book that was, one of those flavor of the month books, and you were trying to sell it as fast as you can, well, you're going to lose value. So, if you grade them just to grade them, then it really doesn't matter. But again, me being an impatient person, being Sicilian Italian and being, a Scorpio, we want things done really quick. So I want my comics back as fast as possible. Let's see. Monkstead said, yeah, won't send the CG again for pressing. Now, again, and since you did it, did that include dry cleaning, or was it just the pressing? Because, again, dry cleaning will make your value of your comic even more valuable, because a dirty comic is going to lower the grade. So if they only do a pressing, they're only solving part of the problem. So if you have dirt all over the comic, a pressing doesn't help get rid of that. So, again, which is going to factor? Now, one of the things people may not know, you can use the best of both worlds. Because with PGX, just because you press and dry clean with them does not mean you have to get the comics graded. So if you want, you could send your comics to PGX, which is a cheaper price and a faster turnaround for the pressing and dry cleaning. And when you get them back, you can send them to CGC for the regular grading. You'll save money and you'll save time. So why can't you use both for each strength? See what I mean about thinking a little bit outside the box and not always going by what some people say, oh, PGX sucks. Well, if you don't like their grading, what's wrong with their pressing and dry cleaning service? It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot faster. It's not mandatory to have to grade them. So you could send them there, get them pressed and dry cleaned, get them back faster than you would with CGC, then send them over to CGC to get graded. Best of both worlds. So let's just keep reading just in case. Caleb says, I've never used any of them, so I don't have experience. I've been kind of scared talking with MKM. I appreciate the info. Never be scared. I mean, if you really are not sure, make sure you pay for the insurance. If you have $1,000 worth of comics, then buy $1,000 worth of insurance. So, God forbid anything happens, you are covered. So that's a way. But like I said, I've probably sent in 100 books to be graded over the years, and not one ever came back a problem. So, it's like anything in life. There's millions of people on the roads. Not everybody gets into a car accident, but it does happen from time to time. So don't base things on the fact of, well, it could get damaged, or even from somebody that said they did get damaged, because it's like airplanes. For every plane that unfortunately crashes, there's about 10,000 that took off and landed safely, but they only focus on the tragedies because that's headlines. So my recommendation is never, in anything in life, never base it on negativity and fear, because then you're never going to be able to experience any joy. And sometimes in life you have to take risks. Now, mailing comics, if you know how to mail them properly and you keep them secure, their job is to make sure they treat them the best as possible. Because not for nothing, if you get back ripped apart, damaged comics, they're not going to get your business again. So they're not in the business to try and destroy them. And if you mail them properly and take the extra time to securely, tape down your comics and put lots of cardboard and be responsible, well, you're going to reduce the chance of even a neglectful postal worker being able to damage them. So the fate is in your own hands, but I would never recommend living life in any way being scared of something. Because what fun is that? So, I always say, take the chance. And if you want, start with one book. See how it goes. Build your confidence up. But if you want to get, your comics protected, if you do want an increased value, is going to be from grading your comics. And not for nothing, I love, like, CGC, PGX, CBCS boxes, the unboxings. So if anybody has videos out there where they have the unboxing videos for those, let me know. I love watching them, especially when you don't know the grades. And my 4 comics that I sent in, all 4 of them are Holy Grail comics, and I have a video that I posted about a week or 2 ago that show what they are if you want to check it out. I don't know the grades, and I will not know it until I open them. And to me, that's almost like a Christmas present. It's very fun. So let's continue just in case with any of the comments. Comic Lover Omega says, although it sucks because I got my Spawn #1 and my New Mutants 87 signed by Todd McFarlane, and CBS wasn't doing authentic signatures. Does anybody know why? That I don't know. As far as, I've used them before and they do authentic signatures. Maybe they thought they were fake. Did you have them signed yourself? Or did you buy them already signed? Because obviously, if they felt that those signatures were fake, they would not authenticate them. So I guess it would really depend on the situation. R.W. Wheatley says, great info, thank you. Let's see, maybe there's too much in work. Let's see. All right, Monk's Den says, I sent my Batman Adventures 12 to PGX and got it back as a 9.4. I knew the comic was much higher. I broke the slab and sent it to CGC and got a 9.8. I mean, that was my experience, and I agree with Chris. And that can happen, because remember, like I said in the other video, these are not graded by robots. These are people. They're going to see different things. And one of the things I've learned about CGC, especially with newer books, you tend to get CGC to grade a 9.8. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what the grade was. But if you know you're going to get a 9.8 on a newer book, you're going to send it to them, they're going to get more money. So I've heard a lot of people say that newer books tend to get 9.8s a lot with CGC, because if you would have sent that book to CBCS, you would have probably gotten a 9.4 or a 9.6. So that's the main reason why people send things to CGC, because they know they're most of the time going to get the benefit of the doubt of a higher grade. But again, it's individuals grading these, so you're going to have variations. I've seen other companies do the same thing. So, I mean, it really depends on when you sent them. It could have gotten damaged, or who knows? There's a lot of different factors. So let me just see if there's any questions. BXNYC says, how do they know if they are real? Well, I'd have to know what you mean by that to be able to answer that question. Monk's Den says PGX new label is much nicer, at least. I agree. I think of the three labels, CGC is better, but they still, all three of them need to work on it. One of the biggest things that they don't do, which I don't understand, not any of the companies do it, is I feel on the back of the grading, they should have the grader's notes. Because they have that whole back where they basically put nothing there. All they have to do is list the grader's notes. And even make it an option. Not charge people extra for it, but have the people have a choice. Either they could place it on for free and list what's wrong with the book, or you could say, for whatever reason, you don't want anything listed, and you could just say, I don't want it. Because how much does it cost them to put a couple of lines of extra information on the back? I mean, we're paying to get them graded. We really should be able to know what they are. And instead of having to message or call the company to get the grader's notes, because PGX and CBCS do it for free, you have to go to their website, though, to do it. Why don't they just place it on the back of the grading on the label? To me, that makes no sense. But, you know, they want to try and get as much money as possible. J-Man Truth Seekers here. And, oh, okay. BXNYC76 says, comic signings, how do they know it's authentic? Well, they have companies out there that verify signatures. Now, obviously, if it's not witnessed, they can't guarantee that it is authentic. But what they'll do is they'll compare the signature. Like, they'll have many copies, and they'll have people that have seen a signature so much. Because if you see somebody's signature, it tends to be the same. So when somebody else fakes it, there's different ways to test things. So they have professionals that will review a signature, compare it to other signatures they know are authentic, and then compare it from that. And if it's pretty much spot on, they can safely say that it is genuine. But obviously there can be error in there, because you might have a forger that is perfect in a certain person's signature. So only the yellow label, which is witnessed, will be guaranteed. So the others, I mean, you never know. But like, for example, I had two of my comics that I sent in to CBCS that I got signed myself. I had my Amazing Spider-Man issue number 300 that I had since I was a kid. I mean, I bought it for cover price. I had Todd McFarlane sign it back in the 90s at a New York Comic-Con. And I had a New Mutants 87, which I had signed by Rob Liefeld. So when I sent them in, I knew they would come back because they were real, and they both came back authenticated. So, again, if it's something that isn't witnessed, there is no 100% guarantee, but they basically compare signatures, and they basically will look at a signature and say, that's either totally fake, or it just doesn't fit into what the person normally, how they sign. So they're pretty good at that from what I've seen. I've never seen anybody, as far as I know, put a video out saying, I got this comic book signed myself. I sent it into whatever company and it came back, not authentic. So I've yet to see that. But if anybody knows of a person that had a video like that, post it in the link in the description or the comment section when this video uploads if you didn't see it live. So yeah, and the certificate of authenticity mean nothing. I mean, you could literally you can go on Stan Lee's website and he'll have a Stan Lee certificate of authenticity for a signed comic. If you send it in to, for example, CGC, they won't accept it. So yeah, unfortunately, the certificates of authenticity mean nothing. And I mean, I go back to the days when I had the signatures. They didn't have certificates of authenticity back then. People just got books signed because it wasn't a multi-million-dollar industry back in the late 80s, early 90s. So, I remember the second time I went to a Comic-Con, all of a sudden there was this no-name company. I don't remember who it was, but they was charging like $15 to get your signature authenticated. And at the time, everybody was like, why would you spend $15 to get it authenticated when we're here with the actual artist signing them? But now it's a frenzy. But nowadays, again, like what TJ Watson just said, they really don't even mean anything anymore because anybody could make a copy of a certificate of authenticity. So even ones that are come from quote-unquote reliable sources, like buying directly from an artist's website, still they can't guarantee. Like, for example, like I said, CGC will not guarantee it because they didn't witness it, and they don't do signature verification. If you have a book that's already signed and you send it into CGC to get graded, it will come back with a green label stating writing on the front of the cover. They will not verify it. So that can be unfortunate if you want to go with CGC because, like I said, with each company, there are some positives and there's some negatives. So review each company. See which company will be best for the particular moment you have. And yes, that includes even the dynamic forces. Because again, unless it's witnessed, they can't guarantee it. So even if you had one of those dynamic forces where it has the seal and they put the certificate of authenticity in it and they seal it with their own seal sticker, even if that was never opened, they still have to verify it. They cannot guarantee just because that happened that it's authentic. So, it's a business to make money. That's why they do it. And, that's why it's a multi-million-dollar industry. Unfortunately, it's all driven based on how much money you could make. I mean, it goes both ways. The people that are selling comics, they're doing it to make money. The people that buy them to turn around and sell them on eBay, they're doing it to make money. The companies that grade these, sometimes they'll grade them a little higher because they want your money. So again, be smart. Check each company, see which one will benefit you for which different way. If you want to use brand loyalty, then you're limiting yourself because you never know what another business could offer. There is not one company that is 100% great, and on the other end, there isn't a company that's 100% bad, because if they were, they'd no longer be in business. So make sure your money goes into the right places. The more money you put in somebody else's pocket means there's less money in your pocket to buy the things that you love. And to me, that just doesn't make sense. But it's your money. It's your time. You do what you want. So I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to comment. As usual, you guys are always very respectful and have great conversations in the comment section. So even when I stop this video, if you want to keep talking to each other, please do. If this is your first time here, please hit subscribe. Subscribe to other people's channels on the live chat, especially if they make videos. Go show the support. If you could take the time to thumb this video up, it's always appreciated. If you want to share it, if you think this is beneficial, you're more than welcome to post it on your social networks and check out some of my other videos. And when this uploads, make sure you leave your comments because I always respond. So thank you very much. I hope this helped you. And don't forget, it's not you, it's not I, it's We Love Comics. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you next time.